Hello, my name is James Valenti. I'm your host today. I'm here with TJ Donovan, who's the candidate for Attorney General for the state of Vermont. He'll be running in a Democratic primary on August 28th against the incumbent, Bill Sherrill. Please remember to vote in your primary election, which is August 28th again, and remember that you can vote early by contacting your local town clerk. TJ, thanks for being here.
James, thanks for having me.
It's about 98 degrees, and our viewers are probably going to think I'm pressing you pretty hard in this interview. But I assure you folks at home, it's just the weather. There are probably a lot of people here in southern Vermont who have not come across you yet. Can you just give a brief biographical sketch about who you are and why you're running?
Sure. James, thanks for having me. I grew up in Burlington, Vermont, one of 6 kids. I had 5 sisters. As I like to say, I learned the lesson of equality at a very early age. Attended public schools, went on to college, went on to law school, but really had a wonderful experience growing up in Burlington. My mother raised 6 kids. My father was a lawyer. He had a solo practice, kind of a street lawyer, if you will, meaning, as you know, he'd take anything that came in off the street, whether it be defending somebody charged with a criminal offense or somebody who needed help to draft a will or somebody who needed a real estate closing. He's a great guy. He had a tremendous heart, helped a lot of people, did it quietly, and that was the greatest gift I think he left me, was that gift of compassion and a willingness to help those who need help. Was a prosecutor, was in private practice for a number of years. In 2006, I was elected Chittenden County State's Attorney. I'm now in my 2nd term as State's Attorney. I think we've done some good work. As in my time as State's Attorney, we've been tough on crime. We've had every big case we've won. We've also been smart on crime. We've really created some innovative, creative programs that address really some of the drivers of crime. That's substance abuse, that's mental illness. We've created community-based programs that address issues of substance abuse and mental illness in the community, not in the courthouse. By doing so, we've enhanced public safety, also have saved thousands of taxpayer dollars. We've won national awards for this type of program because it's innovative, it's creative, it's collaborative. These issues are all over Vermont. These programs shouldn't just be in one part of Vermont. As Attorney General, I want to bring really community-based restorative justice to every corner of this state, because those issues of substance abuse, those issues of mental illness certainly do not discriminate, but the issue of poverty does. And that's a big issue that I think more people need to talk about. I know your practice, and I think you would agree with this. I don't think you can separate the issues of poverty from the issues of crime.
Yeah.
You walk into court, whether it be in Brattleboro, whether it be in Burlington, whether it be in St. Albans, and you see people who are living in poverty. You see people who suffer from substance abuse and mental illness. You see people who are unemployed, have lack of education, or are underemployed, and we recycle them through the criminal justice system. We have a corrections budget of $140 million. We have a recidivism rate, depending on who you ask and how you define it, between 52% and 43%. James, I'm not sure I know any business or any other state agency that can fail 5 out of 10 times or 4 out of 10 times and stay in business. I don't think it should be acceptable for the corrections department. I think why it has been acceptable is because it's dealing with those that live in poverty.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for real leadership on those issues, and those are the issues I want to bring to the Attorney General's office.
Now you're running in a primary election. You're running against an incumbent, someone who's been there for some time. What would you say to a prospective voter in the Democratic primary about why they should vote for you in this sort of unconventional contest?
Sure. I would say this, James. It's time for a change. After 15 years, it's time for new ideas, new energy, and new engagement from the Attorney General's office. My opponent, by his own admission, says his greatest achievement came 4 weeks after being appointed to the office, he signed on to a national lawsuit. 15 years later, the world has changed. Vermont has changed. We're facing new challenges. It's time for new leadership. Whether you care about the issues of consumer rights, and as my wife and I want to know, we want to know the type of food our 2 young boys are eating. I support GMO labeling. Whether it's addressing, which I think is the #1 public safety and public health issue in this state, prescription drugs, I have a plan. Whether it's standing up for the most vulnerable in this state, I want to be a champion for our seniors in this state. Elder abuse is a major issue, not just the physical abuse, but the financial exploitation. It's also standing up for civil rights. I think the issue of migrant justice is an issue not only of civil rights, but human rights. As an Attorney General, I'll speak out and stand in solidarity so the migrant workers in this state have every access to the justice systems that you and I have, and every access to the emergency services that you and I have. Finally, it's about standing up for fairness. I want to work to reform the criminal justice system so we bring fairness, equity, and a level playing field across this state to every Vermonter, regardless of their lot in life.
Now, you talked a little bit before about reducing recidivism, and you've had a good deal of experience in the criminal justice system being the chief prosecutor in Burlington. How would you use the Attorney General's office to effectively reduce recidivism?
Well, the Attorney General, as you know, is the chief law enforcement officer of this state. He's the only person, that office is the only office in this state that has statewide jurisdiction. As you know, we have 14 different criminal justice systems in 14 different counties in this state, which I think has led to a budget that has just exploded. And it's a budget, I should note, that we spend more on corrections in this state than we do in higher education. Cost of incarceration for 1 year in Vermont is $52,000 a year. We can do better. So the issue is about leadership. The issue is about developing those best practices that prevent crime. 21st century law enforcement is not being reactive and waiting for crime to happen. That's a failure. 21st century law enforcement is about being proactive, about preventing crime, about having interventions, about having education, about having meaningful community involvement in addressing these issues, these root causes that drive crime: poverty, mental illness, substance abuse. That program we started in Chittenden County has done that. As I said, we've won a national award for the innovative community engagement work it was, because it brought the partners in the social services into the courthouse. It brought people from the healthcare, brought people from education, because the populations overlap. We coordinated, we communicated. People came into court. We said, we don't want to charge you. We want to help you. We use evidence. We now use science. We use evidence-based screening tools to assess people's needs and their risk. We then link them with the appropriate social service agency. And if they successfully complete the program, we don't charge them, because if our job's public safety, I'm not sure we're more safe with a 4th retail theft conviction on somebody's record. What I do know, James, is we are more safe if that person is sober and is stable and is a law-abiding, productive member of our community.
Right.
And when we won that award, Governor Shumlin said he wants to see this program in every county, in every courthouse in this state. There's only one person who can do that. It's the Attorney General.
Right. Now, one of the specific types of crime you mentioned just before was elder abuse and abuse of disabled persons. How would you target that particular area?
Sure. I think what you have to do, Vermont has the 7th highest percentage of seniors in the country. It has been estimated that 84% of elder abuse crimes go unreported. Oftentimes because of the stigma, because the people that are doing the abuse and are committing these crimes are often not only family members, but caretakers. And there's a stigma attached.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of public safety is raising awareness, public education. So you give people tools, you give people the education to protect themselves, make informed decisions, so they truly enjoy their golden years. I want to create an elder abuse unit that brings everybody together, whether it's adult protection services, people from baking, people from the Attorney General's office, law enforcement, working together so we deal with these issues from a wide-ranging perspective, and we cover all the bases and truly get people the help they need so they can enjoy their golden years.
One of the issues that's in the papers right now, or was recently, was the death by Taser up in Thetford recently. And there's been in Brattleboro a few stories through the past few years about Taser use and a discussion in the community about how to appropriately use the Taser device. Would you address that as Attorney General?
Absolutely. Again, the job is, you're the chief law enforcement officer. So I came out with a policy on tasers. It's a two-pronged policy. It's very simple. It's somebody, number one, we should leave it to the local towns to decide if their local police departments want to deploy tasers. I think the people have a right to a say. If they do choose to deploy tasers, then there has to be a statewide policy that they follow. And that policy that I'm going to create, I'm going to bring in not only the ACLU, the League of Cities and Towns, so we have the municipal interest, law enforcement, but also, most importantly, mental health professionals. Because this is the issue. We need to give law enforcement the best training and education on mental illness, specifically so law enforcement officers can identify, can detect, and can de-escalate people who are suffering from mental illness and address these issues, I think, in a more peaceful manner.
There are a couple of people in Brattleboro, Daryl Pillsbury and Vita Crocetta, who run an organization dedicated to changing the law on marijuana. And there are a lot of people, I think, in Windham County who want a change from the current criminal penalties associated with small amounts of marijuana and simple possession, that sort of thing. Would that be something that you would attempt to change as Attorney General?
Yes, I support decriminalization of marijuana. Here's why. No young person should ever be made ineligible to receive federal student loans as a result of a conviction for marijuana possession. The collateral, this is not talking about jail. This is the fact of a conviction carries collateral consequences. You lose your eligibility for federal student loans, public housing, food stamps. That's nonsense. The pieces are in place to decriminalize marijuana, small amounts of marijuana in this state, but we need an engaged Attorney General willing to lead on this issue. You know, I think I'm the Attorney General who's going to get that done. Here's why. The chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dick Sears, Senator Dick Sears from Bennington, has endorsed my candidacy. The chair of the House Judiciary Committee, Representative Bill Lippert, has endorsed my candidacy. These are the committees that would handle these bills. These endorsements suggest to me and to others that people are ready for change. People want an engaged Attorney General willing to take on these issues. May not be popular, but they're the right issues to lead on. I've also received the endorsement of the Vermont State Police and the Vermont Sheriff's Association. So people who work in law enforcement, people who write the bills in Montpelier, are supporting me in this race because they're ready for change.
Now, I know a lot of viewers right now are wondering if we're beating around the bush on the big issue in Brattleboro and Windham County that the AG deals with, and that's VY. And that's been probably where Windham County residents have paid attention to the office most recently the most. What's your perspective on VY? What do you plan to do?
I think Vermont Yankee should be shut down, period. And I'll go to whatever lengths necessary to shut it down. The difference I have with Attorney General Sorrell on these cases is this. Whether it's Yankee, whether it's data mining, whether it's campaign finance, or whether it's going to be health care when we pass that bill, we're going to get challenged. As you know, very few lawyers practice constitutional law. Even fewer lawyers practice at the United States Supreme Court. It's a select practice of law.
Yeah.
We should not dabble in this. Bring the experts in early. Work with the legislature. Be engaged. Do the scrutiny and analysis up front, so when these bills are passed into law, they stand up in the court of law. That's good government. Part of leadership is being willing to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. Bring the experts in who know this, and let's win.
One of the things the Attorney General's office dealt with a few years back was our campaign finance laws. And it's become a current issue now that the Supreme Court is applying Citizens United to states. I think was it North Dakota that just had their Montana.
Yeah.
They just had a 100-year-old statute pulled off the books by the higher court. And Vermont is one of the states that has more stringent campaign finance regulations that will probably be at risk. What can you do as Attorney General in the face of that to help us try to keep a campaign finance system in Vermont that seems roundly popular?
First of all, there's way too much money in politics, period. There's too much money in politics even in this race. Raising money is probably the worst experience and probably the greatest deterrent to people getting into politics. It's not fun, and there's too much money. Here's the issue. Because of Citizens United, there's not much we're going to be able to do on campaign finance right now. Yeah. That is the reality. Unless we have a different makeup in the Supreme Court. We don't know when that's going to happen. Where the fight is on campaign finance, though, because of Montana and other states, is on greater disclosures. That's what Citizens United said, is that you can have greater disclosure requirements so you truly understand where this money is coming from and understand the people or the corporations that are trying to influence policy, elections, and politicians with the super PAC money. So it's all about disclosures right now. As an Attorney General, I'm going to make sure that we have the strongest disclosure laws in the country.
Last question. When people think of the top law enforcement issue, they also think safety. You talked a little bit about that and a little bit about the elder abuse.
Yep.
What do you think is the most pressing public safety concern right now in Vermont?
The most pressing public safety concern is prescription drug abuse. I've heard it all over this state. It's driving crime. The burglaries are up. Car break-ins are up. People are desperate to get these drugs. It's an addiction that's incredibly severe. Here's my plan. Number one, we need leadership from the chief law enforcement officer on this issue, number one. The silence on this issue has been deafening. And we can't wait for these crimes to continue to happen. And you can't also say we're going to arrest our way out of the problem. It's got to be a multi-pronged approach. So here's my plan. Number one, partnerships. Bring in the medical community. Let's start screening for addiction before prescribing this type of medication. Number one. Number two, invest in treatment. It works. Day in jail in Vermont, $150, $175 a day. Day in treatment, $95 a day. Invest in treatment. Use the Office of the Attorney General to lobby the legislature to appropriate dollars for more treatment beds in this state. Third, very simply, heard this all over the state, James, people don't know how to get rid of the prescription drugs that are in their medicine cabinets. They're done taking them. They get leftover pills. They don't know what to do. People are trying to get them out of their house. So create a very simple plan that's accessible for people to understand where they can go in their geographic areas to get rid of these drugs. Fourth, let's pass progressive legislation. I support passage of a Good Samaritan law, which basically says this. Don't care where you got the pill that's in your pocket. Don't care if you gave it to your friend. If you're in need of help, if your friend's in need of help, call 911, go to the ER. This is about saving lives. It's not about placing blame. Fifth, let's have strong enforcement against those that deal and sell these drugs for greed or for profit. It has to be multi-pronged. It's got to be partnership. It's got to be treatment. It's got to be prevention. And it's got to be legislation that's progressive.
Thanks, TJ. The primary election's on August 28th. You can get a ballot from your town clerk to vote early. TJ, you have a website?
Yes, I do, James. My website is www.donovan2012.com, right up on the screen. Appreciate your support. Ask for your vote on August the 28th in the Democratic primary. I'm TJ Donovan, and I'm running for Attorney General. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, TJ.
Thank you, James.